Thanks everyone for joining the webinar this afternoon. We are really excited to have Courseware Implementation Specialists Karri Miller and Gregory Shaffer on the webinar with us. My name is Dave Alexander and I am a Higher Ed Marketing Manager here at TestOut. And for those that aren't familiar with TestOut, we are an IT and Microsoft Office certification courseware provider, and we specialize in competency-based training using simulations. The purpose of this webinar is to learn from Karri and Gregory about the challenges of implementing online Microsoft Office courseware and the key lessons they've learned and their recommendations for ensuring success. Now, if any of you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them in the questions section found on the GoToWebinar sidebar. There's a question mark symbol that you can click on, and we'll have people on here that can respond via chat. And then if you have any questions that are specifically directed to Karri or Gregory, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end of the webinar as well. Now, my pleasure to introduce our first presenter, Karri Miller. Karri has been with Umpqua Community College for over 8 years. She is an online and traditional classroom instructor for Intro to Computer Information Systems and Community Education. Karri has experience with creating and implementing new courseware with online classes and has developed many courses to teach mobile and online technologies, as well as Excel for adult community classes. After a shooting at UCC, Karri became the project manager for Umpqua Story Project, a way to train volunteers to listen as people talked about how they felt and responded to the shooting. She graduated from Western Oregon University with a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in forensic science, and she holds a master's degree in library and information science with a concentration in archival studies from Drexel University. Okay, I will pass things over to Karri.
Thank you, Dave, and hello from sunny Oregon, which is strange to say because just 2 weeks ago we were buried under almost 2 feet of snow. But that's Oregon for you, I guess. Anyway, some of you may have experience implementing online computer concepts and Microsoft Office courseware in your schools, or you may be doing it for the first time. For my part of the presentation, I'm going to talk about my experience implementing courseware for Umpqua Community College's Intro to Computer Information System class for the first time, which I hope will benefit those of you who are in the works or planning on implementing. I'll also share my experience switching to different courseware, which some of you are currently doing. Originally, I was asked to redevelop my first online courses during my second year of teaching. There were 6 classes total that needed to be updated. So for all of you who have been there or are currently there, it can be difficult to know where to start. For me, the outline and outcomes of the classes were already set, so thankfully I didn't have to do everything. I did, however, have to redevelop the content for the new version of courseware that the school was already using. Instead of having to create new exams and projects within our LMS and hand grade them, the new courseware integrated all of this into their software. Now, whether you're like I was or you're an experienced teacher, use it to help you. Having personally taken many online courses myself, I use this experience to help me figure out what would work and what wouldn't work. This is what I recommend you do if you don't have a lot of experience implementing online courseware. Now I want to discuss the questions and challenges that I had when first doing this and that you may go through as you implement online courseware. My main question was, how can I set up this course so that it gives all the information and tools an instructor needs while helping them teach the class their way? Each class, whether it's online, hybrid, or traditional, is unique. Since it can be difficult to keep in contact with students through an online environment, you are more tied to what you actually can do instead of developing how to teach the material. you need to recognize that much of what you're doing is providing a platform for students to access the material and submit assignments. In hybrid classes, you not only have the online aspect, but you have to figure out how you're going to use the in-class time. The publisher I used the first go-around provided some of these tools to use in class, but instructors had to pick and choose what to use and how. When you use outside courseware, you need to consider these questions regarding actually accessing the courseware. So first, do you access through your LMS or through an outside site? Then you ask, how do your students purchase or receive their access codes and logins? And are students allowed to use purchased material or codes from outside sources, or are they tied to only what the bookstore provides? Once students have access, what happens when things aren't working correctly? Whether that's with the courseware itself between your LMS and the courseware, or even between you and the LMS. Do you have an on-campus source that know how to deal with these issues, such as tech support, IT help, or LMS support? Do you provide links to or contact information for the publisher's tech support? And where and how do we provide all of this information? Then there are questions about how easy is it to learn and customize courseware. So how easy is it to customize the courseware to fit with things like due dates, exams, and project attempts? For me, the first go around was very complicated and difficult to learn how to customize these things. And once I did set everything up, the software was very strict and extremely time consuming. So you need to vet this out as you're considering using online courseware. Once you have all of these things set up, the question then was, how well will this migrate from one term to another? This lesson we learned the hard way. Think about being able to migrate everything for your next term so that you don't have to redo all of that time-consuming work. In our case, nothing migrated over. When we tried to move over the settings and links directly from a previous term, everything would appear in our new course, but they weren't synced to our grade book and the due dates were all off. That means we had to go into the courseware and set up all of that work for each individual assignment again. Now, bugs were worked out as newer versions of that courseware came out, but we still had many issues, and it was difficult when the publisher's tech support would not respond. So after having done the redevelopment of those 6 online courses and doing all of the work pretty much by myself, I honestly don't know how I did it. This last summer, Gregory and his team from TestOut, along with my team on campus, were essential to getting everything done on time and implementing everything so that our first term using TestOut was fairly seamless. All of those questions and challenges that I've discussed so far were only some of the issues that TestOut already had figured out. In regards to addressing online classes versus hybrid, TestOut and their Desktop Pro courseware makes teaching an online class so much easier. For example, when the previous courseware we were using, or with the previous courseware, when taking an exam on Microsoft Word, it would provide a window that looks like Word, but only allows you to perform that task that is being asked of the student in one particular way, when there could be up to maybe 5 ways to complete the task. In TestOut, the exam, simulation labs, and challenge exercises allow the student to learn and complete the tasks in any of the 5 ways that same task could be done. This makes the learning process much more conducive to how each individual student learns. In turn, this makes teaching an online course easier for both the instructor and the student. They also provide teaching aids that help the instructor of hybrid classes develop lectures to fit the material. There are course outlines, PowerPoint presentations, download files for teaching skills, and much more. As for access, make sure when you use Office Courseware, you can get your students access on day one of class, even if they have to wait for financial aid to purchase their access codes. My second go round with TestOut, we had a few minor issues, but everyone in both our online and hybrid classes got access on day one using free access that TestOut gave us for a couple of weeks. Even before class started, TestOut built us a custom web page just for our school that shows students what TestOut is and how it is used in a very easy and concise way. Next, contacting and receiving help from the TestOut tech support team is like night and day from any other tech support I've had to deal with. When you contact tech support, they look into your issue right away and get back to you. They also let you know when a student has contacted them about an issue and what is being done to help that student. And they are always right on top of anything that is reported, and if they can't figure something out right then, they will try and get the software updated with a fix as soon as they can. With the issue of learning and customizing TestOut, when you go to create the links from your LMS to TestOut, it allows you to pick and choose what material you want to import links for into your LMS. There are also tools to create custom exams using the material they provide. We decided that instead of trying to figure out how to implement due dates, we would focus more on students actually learning rather than just completing assignments by a due date. So we decided that we didn't mind that the students go in and repeat labs until they got 100% on everything. The meaningful part of this process is that they learn the material to the best of their ability, no matter how many times they have to repeat something. Now, if a student decides that they would rather just get through it rather than how well they learn it, that's up to them, and they get graded accordingly. When it comes to new semester migration, TestOut makes it so you don't have to worry about due dates, retakes, and grade books not linking, because you simply import the links from the previous course into your new course's LMS shell. The way the gradebook works is that when a student clicks on a link in your LMS, it will automatically sync a grade back to your LMS gradebook. If they neglect to click on those links in your LMS, there is a manual sync tool in the TestOut app in your LMS that will allow you to sync the grades anytime. I do my manual sync about every other day. I was also able to utilize the TestOut team along with my on-campus LMS team and other instructors to develop the course material to fit with our outcomes and syllabus. They also helped me identify how the material aligned with my 11-week classes. Once the syllabus was all laid out, we had bi-weekly conference calls between TestOut and my team on campus, and then they flew out to meet with us in person to make sure we had all the answers to all of our questions. They then went back with a list of items that we were still trying to figure out and came up with solutions to them all, such as questions about the access codes and how to implement that process, designing aspects of the web page, and coming up with ideas on how to make sure students read it, and how to make sure that students always have what they need to be successful. For the first week of classes, the first term that we were implementing the TestOut Courseware, Gregory made a trip out to make sure that everything went smoothly and to help troubleshoot anything that came up, along with discussing how to make things better for future users. So in regard to lessons learned, use your on-campus resources such as other instructors in your department or across campus with the experience of developing online courses and using Courseware. Your tech support team is also a source on campus. And if you're doing an online class, get to know your campus administrators for your online courses. Do your research. After my first time around, I found out quickly that at first glance, things may appear great, but in the long run, I would have much preferred the old way over using that courseware again. It also most definitely doesn't have to be a solo mission. What experience has taught me is that you don't have to do it all alone. If you either know someone directly or indirectly who has done this before, use their experience. Ask lots of questions and don't be shy in asking for help. Now, if you are interested in using TestOut, take advantage and utilize them on day one. They will know how to help you. They have a great team of experts like Gregory who have lots of experience. Well, I think I've been talking long enough. I want to say thank you to everyone for listening, and I look forward to talking with you after the presentation during the Q&A. So now I'll pass it back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Karri. We appreciate it. I think we learned a lot from your experience, and thanks for all of your advice. It's now my pleasure to introduce Gregory Shaffer. Gregory has over 12 years experience developing innovative and intuitive products for teaching and training. Some of his roles at TestOut include Senior Instructional Designer, Product Development Manager, Product Manager of IT Products and LabSim, and to his current role as Director of Customer Success. Gregory's experience allows him to successfully help teachers and schools implement TestOut products into their classroom. He holds a bachelor's degree in business and communications from Brigham Young University and a master's degree in instructional technology from Utah State University. He holds multiple certifications from Cisco, CompTIA, and TestOut. And Gregory says, "My passion is to create, master, and then share new technologies in the education and training industries." I will now pass things over to Gregory.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Karri. You did a fantastic job describing all the details of our work together. You've been a great partner. Really appreciate your efforts today and in the past. So, in fact, I suggest we end the presentation here and go straight to the Q&A. David, what do you think?
No, we want to hear from you too, Greg.
Okay. She did a really good job, and it's not just limited to her, but she highlights so many things that have worked out well and that we do with institutions across the U.S. and internationally. So I will keep my contribution short and hopefully bring up enough points of interest to incite questions during the Q&A. Also, as David mentioned, we have a TestOut implementation team member on the webinar that is moderating the chats. And in fact, there have been some chats come in, and they can respond to any implementation questions that you have right now, or you could hold them until the end. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. So here at TestOut, the definition of implementation is to put something new in place and ensure its success. Now, in my portion of today's webinar, I'm going to draw attention to 3 high-level keys for putting something new in place and ensuring success. First, adopting new and different materials is really a team effort. It includes many players, and you heard some of those from Karri. We have full-time, part-time instructors, we have program chairs, assistant deans, LMS technicians, and then on our side, TestOut side, we have the sales executives, account managers, tech support, we have implementation. It is a team effort to put something or adopt something new, and that's one of the key takeaways you're going to hear a little bit more about later on. The second is communicating often and regularly is key to a successful implementation. Now, some examples of critical communication include the face-to-face or a virtual project kickoff, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly meetings to follow up on action items and progress, the launch day support for students, meaning launch day is day one, the kind of support we provide for students and instructors, as well as semesters or term end meetings. and where we need to see what needs to improve before the next semester or term starts. Well, finally here, I want to bring up that iterative improvements ensure the best fit. And this is because in reality, one size does not fit all. And iterative improvements that I've seen include the following: changes to assignments to motivate or increase engagement with the students, changing lectures to be more of a facilitation of learning with both online and on-campus students, and also changes to course design and product integration to reduce friction points that have discouraged students during the first few weeks of school. So what I'd like to do now in this next slide is to recap 4 highlights or lessons learned from my experience with Umpqua's implementation of Desktop Pro Plus. First, meeting with Karri, the LMS leads, and others on the Umpqua team helped us understand several specific issues or friction points that we needed to get right. And Karri spoke to some of those, and I'm going to kind of couple my thoughts with hers. The first thing that we discussed is fitting the Desktop Pro course to the design of their CIS 120 class. That's their Intro to Computers. They had a dual approach of concepts and skills, meaning for each week, basic internet and computer concepts are taught first, followed up with office skills in MS Word, MS PowerPoint, MS Excel, etc. So they needed to fit our product to their current design. That was one of the first things we learned. The second thing we learned were specifics about the LMS integration for single sign-on and grade return, including improving the student's experience of using the Canvas course and clicking assignment links from LabSim to the labs, the videos, and so forth. As we integrated the product into the Canvas course, we needed to avoid overwhelming the student and increasing the focus on a guided experience from 1 week to the next. The third thing we learned on this first meeting was we discussed how to improve the first day experience, so there were no friction, no issues. And they brought up 2 issues that they've experienced in the past. One was licenses or activation codes and how students would get confused on day 1 for those. The second thing that they discussed were the installation of software and plugins and how that kept the students from being successful as well. So those 2 items we took away as needing to get right. Now, fortunately, our product doesn't require the installation of any software or plugins, so we really only had to focus on the activation codes. In the end, we wanted their first day, the students' first day in class, actually the first several weeks in class, to be smooth. We wanted to give the students confidence that they could learn, that they could use technology, that they're going to be successful. So on to the second bullet point here. After our initial meeting, we followed up with the action plans and then reported back to each other on our progress towards course design, LMS integration, the first day experience. And we did this through GoToMeeting. We virtually met every couple of weeks until things were underway, and then we held monthly meetings right up until our launch day. And this open and regular communication allowed us to make changes to quickly ensure everyone was on the same page. Third, launch day, or day 1, is a critical day for students, instructors, and the whole team. So to ensure success on this day and the next few weeks, we were on site supporting Karri, like she mentioned. Not only supporting Karri, but also the students. Further, we assisted the Umpqua team with onboarding an online adjunct team member that had only just been assigned to teach the online section of the CIS 120 course. So in general, providing support on launch day can be an on-site or remote, meaning we can support remotely or virtually. But in this case, it worked out to be best on-site. So the fourth lesson here for Umpqua, the final lesson learned, is about instructor feedback and iterative improvements. I mentioned earlier about the importance of this. So incorporating feedback is vital to ensuring a good fit. Yet this is likely one of the most ignored elements of adopting something new. For Umpqua, however, we kept the line of communication open and regular for the whole semester, and Karri and her team noticed changes that they needed to make to the Canvas courses, and we incorporated several changes on our end to our Canvas integration. Even last week, here in March 2019, we made enhancements to the Canvas integration that incorporated some of Karri's and her team's feedback, which will decrease the level of oversight for the instructor. This illustrates that listening to our partners, instructors, students, etc., that leads to the best implementation and ensures a good fit. Finally, I've seen several implementations of our Desktop Pro product in community or 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, career colleges, high schools, and so forth. They're all unique, and rightly so. However, there are some commonalities as well, and these commonalities can be grouped into the items you see on this slide. And at a high level, let me review each one. First, each institution likely needs to implement the best solution for their online, on-campus, or hybrid environments. And we work with all these types of environments. We help schools determine what will work best for the type of students that are in the program, the full-time, part-time instructors, and the adjuncts that teach the courses in the program, and so forth. Second, each institution likely needs a good fit of our training product to their current course learning outcomes or objectives. To do this, we help program chairs, lead instructors, etc., align our product to these outcomes, including our recommendations to focus on specific modules or chapters of our product. In short, we help our product fit to the needs of the school and the skills the student needs to be successful. The skills the students need to be successful. So third, when it comes to LMS integration, we have partnerships. We have partnerships with Canvas, partnerships with Blackboard, Brightspace, and so forth. Our product, our Labsim product, integrates nicely and allows for a point-and-click integration. You essentially decide what links to add to your class by looking at our product outline and selecting the videos, demonstrations, labs, text lessons, quizzes, and so forth. You can even decide to include our certification exams as your final or summative assessment in your class. And if you need help, our help, with the LMS integration, we have an implementation team member multiple members who are ready and experienced with all, or at least the most popular LMS platforms. Finally, here, instructors need to know what is going on, specifically if there's been a change to a class that they're used to. And depending on the needs, we've helped train instructors on site, remotely, or both. When we train instructors or help with onboarding, we typically review 4 things. We review first the student experience, such as their single sign-on experience and when to enter in activation codes or how to get the activation codes. We also review our contact information, so both the instructor and the student can get immediate support if they need it. Third, we review how to see scores in Labsim as well as scores in the LMS platform after they've been transferred over. And then finally, it's really open and we can address any question or detail that is important for the success of the instructor or the student. As I wrap up, I want to underscore that the focus of implementation here at TestOut is on the student's success. All of the implementation we offer to schools is complimentary. There's no buy-up for this service. There's no fee for integration, training, course design. Implementation here at TestOut is not meant for generating revenue. See, our goal is to put something new in place and ensure its success for the student, the instructor, the program, the institution. And this supports TestOut's mission to make a difference in a person's life through education using breakthrough technology. I believe together with your help, we can make a difference. And back to you, Dave.
Thanks so much, Gregory. That was awesome. We appreciate both you and Karri's advice and insight. And before I move on to the Q&A, I just wanted to remind everybody that we'll send out this recording as well as these slides to you in the next few days. And for any of you that are interested in looking at our Desktop Pro courseware, we actually just released a new site that has some great resources, has some past recorded webinars that you can go to. This is what it looks like. It loads up here. And it's got some great information here that you can look at around implementation, about our courseware, and I encourage you to go check that out. And then we also have information about our implementation team. So this gives you the details of what our implementation services offer. And we have contact information. You see Gregory's picture there, and then all of our other implementation specialists. And we are ready to help you and give advice and partner with you to make sure that your students are successful. Okay, now it's time for the Q&A. So let me pull those up, and if you start having questions, feel free to submit and we'll start answering them. So let me start here.
David, this is Gregory. It looks like there's been
Yeah.
several questions come in through the chat. I don't know if that's, it looks like every question that has come in has been answered in some form or another, but we might want to highlight that or add to it if we need to. Or there might be the questions panel if they've used questions, but I don't see that here in my console.
Right. Let's see. Starting to come in here. So somebody asked Greg, how does the manual sync work? Will it override previous grades with the highest score or with the newest score, or even if it is lower? Do you have some insight on that?
Right, I do, and I can send an integration guide that details that to this person. First, we can sync scores on either the highest or the latest, and that's a decision that we make with the school. And we go and set it on our side. So if they were to hit manual, or if it uses the automatic sync, it uses the setting of highest or latest. So will it override? In this case, if you have a higher score and that's what you want, it will override the lower scores. If you wanted the latest and it happens to be lower, or the latest score happens to be lower, then it would have overwritten a higher score. But again, that can be determined on a school-by-school basis with our integration.
Okay. And someone just asked about, are the grades syncing with Blackboard? I know you talked about Canvas. Do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about Blackboard?
Sure. Yeah, let me, at a high level, we have custom programming that we call plugins. Now the plugins are available with Blackboard as well as Canvas and Brightspace. For other LMSs, we use a common language called LTI. But for Blackboard, we can use LTI or the plugin, either one. Same with Canvas, same with Brightspace. So our custom programming with Blackboard is using what they call building blocks. And again, that's something that we work with the LMS techs to get it set up. And very simple, again, once it's in their system, then we go ahead and help, either we do it for them or we help them create the links to specific course resources that are found in the outline. So we are operating on installed versions of Blackboard, and we're looking at their next generation, their next solution, which is an online solution, which is, I think they're calling it still Blackboard Ultra. And that's online, maybe to compete with Canvas and to compete with Brightspace, which is online only.
Okay, great. I've had a question in Blackboard, where can you find like the sync button?
Oh, like synchronization?
Yeah, for Blackboard to sync with Lapson, with our product, or with another Courseware product.
That is a good question for my two colleagues that do this day in and day out. I do happen to know that Blackboard used to sync every 4 hours, and you didn't need a manual sync button. So we could get into the details of that. There actually is a button for the other plugins, the Canvas plugin and the Brightspace plugin, and yet earlier I referenced that we are now going the automated way that will sync at every at a predetermined frequency. So Blackboard was already there with their building block integration, and we're just now getting Canvas to do it likewise. So I guess another way to say this is I don't know exactly where the button is, and yet I also remember Blackboard being automatic. So every X amount of hours, I believe that was 4 or 6 hours.
Okay.
And at the end of this call, we can send the integration guides and point out the answer to that question if it is in the integration guide. All of our integration is documented, and we give that to the technicians as well as to any lead who is responsible for building the links and kind of setting it up. So we walk them through all the steps.
So I have another question here. Where can one find quantified results that illustrate the effectiveness of this mode of delivery of content versus a traditional classroom experience? It would be nice to be able to talk about this with someone more than just anecdotal evidence. So I don't know if you'd want to play into that, Greg. I know you have an instructional design background. I think the question is basically, how can we show that this is an effective way to deliver the content versus just using it in a traditional learning office in a traditional way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, we need good research. We need it out there. We get requests for results on how our product makes a difference. Mainly, and I would have to turn to one of my colleagues, we have 2 product managers here at TestOut that work very heavily with the developers. And I don't have stats that I can provide at this time, or off my head, but those are questions I know we face as prospects look at us as a possible solution. So I would turn to one of our 2 product managers. One's Adam Keys and the other is Jeff Randall, and who have dealt with questions like this before, and they provide that type of information. So let's make sure we have the contact information of the person that's asked that question and get them that information after the webinar today.
Absolutely. Okay. Someone has a question about using an authorization code. Can you have one you buy for a year, like a Cengage Brain, that you can use it, and it costs a lot if a student does not have to say pay for the program? So I think this one is asking about one authorization. I can answer that. So our product, Desktop Pro, it gives the students 18 months of access to the product, and that's not just for one semester or anything like that. So they can have access to the materials after the class if they want to go on and use it to study up as they're continuing schooling, or if they even want to go on and take certifications. The Desktop Pro courseware aligns to Microsoft Office Specialist certifications, as well as our Desktop Pro certification by TestOut, and that's stuff that they can do on their own even after the class. Okay, someone's continuing to ask about Blackboard syncing, Greg.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, go ahead.
Says, how does so I'm having problems with grade syncing. Will LabSim grade override a manually entered grade? So it sounds like this person can go in and manually add a grade, but will the sync override that grade if that happens? Maybe this is something better that we can reach out and talk to her about.
Right. Zach Steele, one of my colleagues, is currently monitoring the chats, and he could address that right now if you pass that on to him. I happen to know with our other LMS integrations that once the teacher manually puts in a grade, we respect that. We do not override it, but we want to confirm that. That's actually the ideal, is that the teacher says, well, this student deserves this type of grade, and even though it's scored higher or lower inside of LabSim, don't override what I put into the learning management system platform. So we get that story and have got it functioning that way. But let's confirm with our implementation manager, Zach Steele, who's on the call, or excuse me, monitoring the chats. And anything specific, I should be very clear for those who are here. We have implementation managers that help you get it set up. On the back end, we have lead LMS tech support who handle questions like this and help with issues that arise.
Great. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So we really appreciate Gregory and Karri for putting the time and sharing their wisdom with us. I hope this was helpful for everybody. Looks like a few more questions are popping in. We can answer those via chat. Anything else we can hear a send off from Karri and Gregory, and we can shut her down.
Sure, it was great to be here to talk with everybody, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you, Karri. Same thing for everybody else. And if anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and Karri. We're here to help the community. And we want to answer questions. We want to further this cause and ultimately further our mission. So thank you for your time, everyone.